Okay, so my main goal from here on out this semester, my main goal with my Google Meets is to introduce the activity for the week at the beginning of the week. So today's a Tuesday, but usually I'll do this on a Monday. And what I'd like to do is I'd just like to go over the activity that I expect you to complete and to talk about the assignment that you have to complete and take any questions. So that's what I see that's how I see these Google Meets going, is me just introducing the activity and then you asking any questions at the end. I would like to do a couple of things first today, though, before I get into Unit 1, Activity 2. So as hopefully you can see on my screen, we have an announcement introducing Unit 1, Activity 2. I'm going to get to that here momentarily. But before I do, I'm going to go up to Submissions, and I'm going to click on Submissions and then Assignments. And I just want to make sure that we're all comfortable here. At this point, we should have submitted 2 assignments already. Our diagnostic writing assignment, and so, for example, it should say 1 submission, 1 file, and your speaking strategies, 1 submission, 1 file. If you haven't submitted those 2 assignments yet, that should be your first priority, is to finish those assignments, and then you can move on to Unit 1, Activity 2, which I'll talk about here in a few minutes. If you're having any trouble with the diagnostic writing assignment or the speaking strategies, let me know and I can try to help you out. But it is important that you submit them and that you do the course in order and that you don't jump or skip an assignment or an activity. I would say, too, that the St. Michael's office is taking submission of work much more seriously in the hybrid courses this semester. We have long waiting lists of students that want to get into our courses. And so what they're doing is, if you're not submitting work on a regular basis, the office is contacting you, and then it's possible that they can withdraw you from a course. And so you're not getting withdrawn if you haven't submitted your speaking strategy assignment yet. But if it goes another week or 2 and I don't receive the speaking strategies assignment and you haven't submitted any work, there's a good chance they'll take you out of the class and put somebody in from a waiting list. So if you haven't submitted the diagnostic writing assignment or the speaking strategy assignment yet, it's important that you do so as soon as possible. And just remember, the attendance policy is that if you don't log in and submit something during the week, you are marked absent for the whole week. So if you haven't submitted anything yet, you were marked absent for last week. So again, just letting you know how the policies work and what the office is looking at. The second thing I want to point out is that you should see feedback from me on your diagnostic writing assignment. So I know many of you have already looked at my feedback, but I can't see feedback here because I don't give myself feedback, but you should see a link right here under evaluation status that says view unread feedback. And you can click on that and you can read what I had to say about your diagnostic writing assignment. Later this week, when I mark the speaking strategies assignments, you'll get a link here that you can click on and you can view my feedback. And since this one is being graded out of 40 marks, you'll also see a rubric with your grades. So do make sure that you're checking my feedback each week for the assignments that you're submitting. One last thing I will say is it's very important. Again, this is a relatively new policy with the school board, but it's very important, as we talked about last week, that you are typing and editing your assignments entirely in a Google Doc, and then you're sharing that Google Doc with me and also uploading the file to the Dropbox. If I typed anything in my feedback to your diagnostic writing assignment about how you're not submitting the assignment correctly, ask me if you need help. But it's important that you submit your assignments correctly from here on out, because if it's not submitted correctly, I'm not allowed to grade it. So again, make sure you're typing your assignments entirely using your My Tools to Go Google Docs. You're sharing that Google Docs with me and making me an editor, and then you're uploading the document to the Dropbox, which is these right here. Again, any trouble with that, please let me know, and I'm more than happy to help. Okay. All right. With that said, let's see if I can introduce our new activity. Okay. So if I go back to course home, and then if we take a look at the news and announcements here, you'll see our activity for this week is Unit 1, Activity 2. And I give you a little introduction here, and I give you a link to the activity right here. And then I give you a due date, which is almost always going to be on Friday for the assignment that we're doing, that you have to do. And so for Unit 1, Activity 2, we're going to introduce professional communication. You'll hold on one second. I'm just going to go shut my door. Sorry about that. There's some noise in the hallway. All right. So anyway, where was I? So Unit 1, Activity 2 introduces professional communication. You're going to learn the difference between informal and formal language. You're going to learn how to write professional letters and emails. And in the activity, you'll also learn about different types of professional letter writing and different types of professional email writing. At the end of the activity, you're going to have to write a letter for me and show me that you can write in a professional, formal way. And so if we click on the activity, takes us right in here. See if I can make that bigger. And you'll see, as always, there is a content page and an assignment page. You want to read the assignment page, the content page first. If you try to jump to the assignment, you're probably not going to fully understand the assignment unless you've done the content. And so we go through the content. The Minds On is the introduction. It's going to introduce professional communication and the different parts, the different ideas that you need to consider when you're using professional communication. It will, in the lesson, in the action, it'll talk about the difference between informal and formal language and give you some examples. I would expect, say, on a midterm test, that you would know the difference between informal and formal language and that you could answer some questions about informal and formal language. So it's important not just for the assignments, but for the midterm and eventually the final exam, that you're understanding all of the material in the content of the lessons as well. So I would, if you haven't done this already, I would make notes. I would make good notes, whether you're typing them, whether you're writing them, about the main topics that we're covering in the activities. We also have types of business letters or types of professional letters, and it's going to cover cover letters, inquiry letters, complaint letters. So cover letters are letters that are written when you're applying for a job. And so it'll go over how to write a cover letter, and it will tell you all the different parts of a cover letter, and it will give you an example of a cover letter. We also take a look at an inquiry letter, which is a letter that you would write when you're requesting information, when you're writing to a college, or when you're writing to the government, or when you're writing to a potential employer and you're asking and you want questions answered. So this is an example of the different parts of an inquiry letter. And then, of course, we have an example, and this one is written to a college. And then finally, my favorite type of letter, or the one that's the most entertaining maybe, is the complaint letter, which you would write if you have a complaint, if you're upset about something, or if you're trying to return something to a company that's broken or something like that. If you have a complaint, you could write a complaint letter. And if you take a look, you've got the different parts of a complaint letter right here, and then an example of a complaint letter. Now, I would argue that in not very long, maybe next year, I'm probably not going to be teaching letter writing much anymore, because I think that most of us don't write letters on a regular basis. We don't write letters or type out letters, take them to the post office and mail them very often now. Most of us use electronic communication, so texts and emails, right? And so I think maybe what might be more beneficial to you is to consider how to write professional emails. And so there's a section here at the end about how to write formal, or we could say professional emails. And it will talk about the things that you need to do when you're addressing them, when you're writing your salutation in your body, when you're writing the conclusion. It's giving you some ideas on how to pick a proper email to look professional. And then last but not least, I've got a little article here and a video that you can take a look. And I really like this video. When I first watched this video, the 10 email etiquette tips for how to write a more professional email, there was a couple of things that I realized that I was doing wrong in writing professional emails. So you might learn a couple of tricks about how to properly present yourself in an email if you take a look at the link here and then this video right here. And then that's it in terms of the content. The content is about informal and formal language, different types of letter writing, and how to write a professional email. So those are the topics. But when you get to the bottom, I should have a little thing here saying the content's finished, move to the assignment. But when you get to the bottom, you'll see the assignment button. And so you can't go any further. You're done the content. You click on assignment. And for the assignment, I'm going to ask you to write the type of letter that I think is probably the most important for you as a grade 12 student. And you might think that's a cover letter, because a cover letter is what you would use to apply for a job. And sure, there's some of you that I know will have written a cover letter before, but there's a lot of different companies and organizations. For example, we have the Unemployment Help Center here at St. Michael's that helps students write cover letters. And so I know there's a lot of places that are already helping students write cover letters. But I find that most of my students in grade 12 English are writing inquiry letters or inquiry emails. And so I find that they're asking me for help on how to write to a college program, or how to write to a university, or how to write to a program about an apprenticeship. So I find a lot of students that maybe need help writing an inquiry letter or maybe an inquiry email. And so what I'm going to challenge you to do in this activity is to write me a properly formatted inquiry letter. So I'm going to ask you to choose a career or a program of study which interests you and write a letter to the appropriate organization, college, or university to find out more information. For instance, if you're interested in becoming an accountant or a teacher, you can write a letter to the Chartered Professional Accountants of Ontario or the Ontario College of Teachers. If you're interested in becoming a personal support worker, you can write the personal support worker program at the School of Nursing at St. Clair College. And so I'd like you to choose something that you are personally interested in, that you're personally interested in pursuing after you leave St. Michael's. Maybe it's something that you talked about in the diagnostic writing assignment that you submitted to me. And then I'm asking you to write an inquiry letter to an organization or a college that can answer your questions about how you could pursue a career or pursue further study in that field. Again, I leave it up to you. Some students can write a letter to a St. Clair College program. Some students could write a letter to a University of Windsor program. Some students could write to a professional organization like the Chartered Professional Accountants of Ontario. But I'm asking you to write an inquiry letter where you ask questions and try to learn more about a particular career or program of study. Now, if you prefer, you don't have to include your real address and phone number and contact information in the letter, but I would like you to use your real name. And if I'm the only one that's going to read it, so if you put your real address and phone number, that's fine. But it doesn't matter to me if your contact information is true, but I do want you to take the letter seriously. I want you to choose something that you are personally interested in and write a good letter, which hopefully you could actually use when you move on from St. Michael's and you need to contact the college or the university or a professional organization. You have the requirements down here. So I'm asking you to follow the format of an inquiry letter. You can take a look at an example of an inquiry letter in the content. I'm asking you to include at least 3 paragraphs. I'm asking you for specific and detailed information related to the program or career that you're asking questions about. I'm asking you to remain on topic and avoid unnecessary words, to use a voice that is appropriate for the audience and purpose. So to use formal and professional language, right? I'm asking you to check spelling and punctuation and grammar errors. I would say that when you're writing a professional letter or an email, your spelling and grammar is more important than in just about any other situation. They'll maybe disregard your letter or disregard your email if you don't have proper spelling and grammar. And then, of course, do not use AI translators or other websites. Use your own words and your own ideas. I cannot mark something if it is not written in your own words using your own ideas. Last but not least, the letter should fit on one page. You usually do not want to submit a letter, whether it's a cover letter, whether it's an inquiry letter, whether it's a complaint letter, that's more than one page, because the person that's reading it is going to lose interest. So you want to fit it on one page. And I would use 11 or 12 sized font, which is considered the normal and professional font size that's used when writing a letter or a professional email. I did give you a business letter template here, and I'll open this up here and show you. So when you open this up, and maybe I'll try to find a way to change this, but when you open this up, it opens up in my Google Docs, but it opens up as a Word document. I'm going to see if I can fix that and make it into a Google Doc that you can click on. But what you'll see here is you've got a place for your name, for the street address, for the city, for the province. You've got all of your contact information. You have the date, so you can put the date that you're writing it. Then you have the contact information for the person that you're writing to. And so you usually want to try to find the name of the person that you're writing to, and then give their organization, and then give their address and their street address at the bottom here. Okay. And then you're going to have dear recipient. You're going to put the person's name, and then you're going to have the body of your letter. You should have 3 paragraphs, and I've given you a little explanation here about what the 3 paragraphs should look like. And then at the end, you're going to have sincerely. You don't have to put a signature in because you're not printing it. But I mean, if you wanted to, you could put an e-signature in here if you want. But if you just leave the signature blank, that's fine. But leave some space for a signature, and then you can put your name typed right here. And so this is the template that you can use. If you follow this template, the structure of your letter should be correct. And I'm going to try to fix it so that it is a Google Doc and not a Microsoft Word document. But if it is a Microsoft Word document, you just click Save as Google Docs. And it will open as a Google Doc, and then you can type in this. So, I would put my name here. And I would put, I would put the rest of my information here. I'd put the date, and I'd fill in the whole letter. And then what I could do is when I'm done with the letter, I would go share, And so I would share it with myself because, I'm the teacher here. So if I put this in, I would go like this. I would copy the link. I would make myself the editor and I would hit send. And then I would go back. I would go back to the course website and you can find the Dropbox right here, or you can go to the submissions button. But if I click right here, I get into the Dropbox, make this a little smaller, and you'll see the rubric, how it's being graded, and then you'll go down to submit assignment. I post the link, or I copy and paste the link that I copied, and then I would go add a file, and then I would go Google Drive. Come on, takes its time. And then I've got my business letter right here. I would go upload, and I would go submit, and done. And then you would see that now I've submitted all 3 of the assignments and I would be done this week's activity. And the goal is to submit this letter by Friday to be on schedule. And that's about it. That's the content and the assignment for this week. And that's how we would go about doing it. I'm going to turn off the recording, and then anyone who's in the meet can ask me any questions here, but just give me 1 second.